When you cross 60, life starts to feel different. The confidence you once drew from a busy career, raising a family, or keeping up with the crowd, it shifts. Retirement might settle in. Your body doesn't bounce back like it used to, and the world seems to speed by while you're still finding your footing. You might think your loved ones, your kids, your spouse, your old friends, will keep you feeling steady and sure of yourself. But as the years roll on, you realize that leaning on others to hold up your confidence isn't as solid as it seems. In this video, we're uncovering 5 unshakable pillars of confidence that stand stronger than uncertainty after. This isn't about turning away from the people you care about. It's about finding strength within yourself so you're never left feeling unsteady, overlooked, or unsure. When you build these 5 pillars, you'll face every day with a quiet power that nothing can shake. Stay with me until the end, because these pillars might just change how you see this chapter of life, and by the time we're done, you'll feel ready to step into it with boldness and clarity. Let's get started. Pillar 1. Your life experience. The strongest confidence you'll ever have after 60 doesn't come from what others say. It comes from the wisdom you've earned over decades. Life experience is your anchor, a steady force that holds you firm when the world feels unsteady. By now, you've weathered storms, celebrated wins, and learned lessons most people can't imagine. And that's not just a tally of years, it's a treasure chest of hard-earned strength. Too many folks think confidence fades with age. But it's the opposite. Your years are your strength, a quiet power that grows deeper with every step you've taken. You don't need a pat on the back to know your worth. It's already woven into the fabric of everything you've lived through. Think about John, a 67-year-old man who spent his life as a mechanic, hands deep in engines, solving problems others couldn't crack. When he retired, he felt lost, like his skills didn't matter anymore. Like the world had moved on without him. He'd sit in his garage, staring at tools that once defined him, wondering if that was it. But then something shifted. He started helping his neighbors fix things. A squeaky door here, a busted lawnmower there. He'd share stories from his past, tales of late nights under hoods or tricky fixes that saved the day. And before long, he realized he had a wealth of know-how no one could take away. Those moments weren't just favors. They were reminders that his decades of work still echoed, that his hands still held value. Life experience isn't just memories, it's proof you've got what it takes. It's the late-night arguments you navigated, the budgets you stretched, the times you picked yourself up when no one else was around to lift you. It's the way you learned to read a room, to spot a lie, to know when to push and when to let go. Most people can't imagine the depth of what you've seen, how you've stood in the rain and still found a way to dry off, how you've laughed through tears and kept going. That's not something you borrow from someone else's words. It's yours, carved into your bones by every year you've claimed. Ask yourself, what have I overcome? Maybe it's the job you lost at 40 and fought your way back from. Or the family crisis you held together when everyone else fell apart. What do I know that others don't? Could be the shortcuts to a perfect pie crust, the knack for calming a storm with a steady word, or the instinct to sense when something's off before it unravels. Lean into that. Dig into the moments that shaped you, the ones that left scars, the ones that left smiles, and see them for what they are. Evidence of your grit, your smarts, your staying power. Because when you trust the road you've walked, uncertainty can't rattle you. The doubts that creep in, about aging, about relevance, about what's next, they bounce off the armor of your experience. You've seen too much to let a shaky moment undo you. John didn't need a crowd cheering his name. He found his footing in the clank of a wrench and the gratitude of a neighbor. You don't need permission either. Your life, all those decades, is a living testament to what you're capable of. So stand tall in it. Let it steady you. Because the strongest confidence after 60 isn't borrowed, it's built brick by brick from the road you've already traveled. Pillar 2. Your independence. There's a deep confidence that comes from knowing you can stand on your own. And after 60, independence becomes a pillar you can't ignore. It's a quiet, unshakable strength that settles in when you realize you don't have to lean on someone else to keep your world turning. Maybe you've spent years relying on a partner or family to keep things running. Your spouse handled the bills, your kids fixed the tech, or a sibling was always a phone call away. But life changes, doesn't it? People get busy, move away, or simply can't be there like they once were, and suddenly you're left wondering who's got your back. That's when independence steps in, not as a burden but as a gift. Your ability to handle your own needs, whether it's managing your home, your finances, or your day-to-day, builds a strength that lasts, a foundation that doesn't crumble when the unexpected hits. Take Ellen, a 64-year-old widow, who'd always leaned on her husband for practical stuff. He was the one who fixed the car, sorted the taxes, and figured out why the lights flickered. When he passed, she panicked. Her safety net was gone, and the world felt overwhelming. She'd sit in her kitchen, staring at a dripping faucet, thinking, "What now?" But then she decided she wasn't going to wait for someone to swoop in. She grabbed a wrench, watched a video, and taught herself to fix that leaky faucet. It wasn't perfect, but it helped. Then she tackled her budget, scribbling numbers, cutting corners, until it balanced. One day, she even hopped in the car and drove to a town she'd never visited, just because she could. She didn't need to wait for help. She became her own rock. Every little victory stacked up, and soon she wasn't just surviving, she was standing tall. Independence isn't about doing everything solo, it's about knowing you can if you have to. It's not rejecting help or pushing people away, it's having the quiet assurance that you're not helpless when the phone doesn't ring. Maybe your kids are raising their own families now, too stretched to drop by with a toolbox. Maybe your friends have their own aches and obligations. Life shifts, and that's okay, because you've got this. Ellen didn't turn into a one-woman army overnight. She started small with a faucet, a spreadsheet, and a solo drive. But each step proved something. She could handle it. And that's where the confidence grows. Deep, steady, and real. What's one thing you could learn to do for yourself today? Could be figuring out that tricky remote, cooking a meal you've always bought pre-made, or sorting the bills without a second opinion. It doesn't have to be grand. Independence isn't about climbing mountains. It's about crossing your own kitchen with a little swagger. Maybe you've never changed a light bulb, or maybe you've avoided the bank statements because someone else always took the lead. Start there, because every step you take on your own builds confidence that sticks, confidence that doesn't fade when the doorbell stays quiet. Ellen found her footing in the clink of a wrench in the hum of her car engine, but yours might be in the beep of a microwave you mastered or the piece of a budget that bends to your will. After 60, independence isn't just practical, it's personal. It's the voice in your head saying, "I've got this," when the world feels shaky. Life changes, people drift, but you're still here, standing strong. So pick one thing, try it. Because every time you do, you're not just fixing a problem, you're building a pillar that holds you up, no matter who's around. Pillar 3, your connections. Confidence after 60 doesn't thrive in isolation. It grows when you've got people who lift you up, who make the days feel brighter and the quiet moments less heavy. But here's the catch. Those connections might not be who you expect, and that can throw you at first. Your kids might be wrapped up in their own lives, chasing careers, raising little ones, juggling their own chaos, and old friends might drift, scattered by time, distance, or the slow fade of shared routines. That's why building new bonds, or strengthening the ones that still spark joy, is key. You don't need a crowd, just a few good souls who get you, who see you for all you are and remind you you're not alone in this chapter. Look at Clara, a 69-year-old woman, who felt lonely after her best friend moved away. They'd spent decades trading gossip over tea, laughing at the same old stories. But then came the moving van and a goodbye that left a hole. She could have waited for her daughter to fill the gap, sitting by the phone hoping for a call or a visit. But Clara knew better. Her daughter loved her, sure, but she had a toddler and a job. Life was loud over there. So Clara stepped out instead. She joined a gardening club, a little hesitant at first, her hands dusty with soil and her heart unsure. But then she met people who shared her love for plants, folks who'd argue over mulch or marvel at a blooming rose. Soon her phone was buzzing with coffee invites, her calendar dotted with chats about pruning and life. She wasn't just passing time, she was building something new. Connections aren't just company, they're a mirror that reflects your value. They're the voices that laugh at your jokes, the eyes that light up when you walk in, the hands that pat your shoulder when the day's been long. After 60, you might think your circle's set: kids, grandkids, the neighbor you wave to, but life has a way of shaking that up. Your kids might be too busy to sit and listen. And those old friends? Some move, some fade, some just don't call back. That's not failure, it's a nudge to look wider. You don't need dozens, just a handful who click, who make you feel alive instead of overlooked. Clara didn't replace her friend, she added to her story, and that's the trick. Ask, who makes me feel alive? Maybe it's the buddy from way back who still gets your quirks. Or maybe it's someone new, a face from a book club, a voice from a phone chat. If that list feels short, step out, try a group, a class, a chat with a neighbor. It's not about forcing it. It's about opening a door. Clara found her people in a garden, but yours might be at a card table, a church pew, or the dog park. You don't have to be loud or bold, just show up. Because when you've got a circle that clicks, confidence flows naturally, like water through roots. It's not about numbers, it's about feeling seen. If you're still watching, drop a 3 in the comments. I'd love to know you're here. Clara's phone buzzed because she took a chance, and maybe yours will too. Connections after 60 aren't a luxury, they're a lifeline. A spark that keeps you glowing. So think about it. Who's in your corner? If it's slim, don't wait, step toward it. Because when you've got even 1 or 2 who lift you up, you're not just getting by, you're thriving, steady, and sure. Pillar 4. Your curiosity. Confidence after 60 isn't about having all the answers, it's about staying open to new ones, letting your mind stretch and your heart wander. Curiosity keeps your mind sharp and your spirit bold, a flame that flickers against the weight of years. Too many people hit this age and think, I've seen it all, why bother? They settle into routines, convinced the world's mysteries are solved or too far off to chase. But that's when confidence stalls, when the spark dims and the days blur into sameness. Your family might cheer you on, clapping from the sidelines with love and good intentions, but they can't fuel your spark. That's yours to ignite, a fire only you can tend. Think about Robert, a 72-year-old who'd never traveled far. His life had been a small circle: home, work, the grocery store 2 miles down the road. After losing his wife, he felt stuck, like the walls of his quiet house were closing in. He'd sit with his coffee, staring out the window, wondering if this was all that was left. Then one day, he saw a flyer for a local history tour. Nothing grand, just a bus ride through town, with a guide. He signed up, half expecting to nod off. But as the stories unfolded, old mills, forgotten scandals, names carved in stone, he woke up. One trip turned into a hobby of exploring nearby towns, dusty maps spread across his table, his boots tracking new paths. Suddenly he felt alive again, eyes wide with questions he hadn't asked in years. Curiosity doesn't mean chasing the impossible. It's about small adventures, reading a new book that pulls you in, trying a recipe that smells like a memory, asking questions about the stars or the street you've walked 1,000 times. It's not scaling mountains or decoding quantum physics, unless that's your thing. It's cracking open the everyday and finding something fresh inside. Robert didn't need a plane ticket to Paris. He found wonder in a crumbling barn an hour away. That's the beauty of it. Curiosity fits wherever you are. It's the nudge to wonder why the birds sing that way, or how bread rises, or what happened in 1923 on your corner. It keeps you moving, not just through space, but through yourself. What's one thing you've always wondered about? Maybe it's how to grow tomatoes, or what that old guitar in the attic could play, or why the river bends where it does. Go after it. Flip a page, watch a video, ask someone who knows. Because every time you learn something new, you remind yourself you're still growing, and that's pure confidence, the kind that doesn't bend under doubt. Robert's spark wasn't loud. It was a quiet hum of bus engines and scribbled notes, but it lit him up. Yours might be softer still, a whisper in a library aisle or a click of a stove igniting, but it counts. If this hits home, type 4 below. Your feedback keeps me going. Too many folks after 60 think curiosity's for kids, but they've got it backward. It's the thread that keeps you woven into the world, not just watching it pass. Your kids might say, good for you, but they can't hand you that itch to know. They can't make you care. That's on you. Robert found it in a tour. You might find it in a podcast, a puzzle, a walk with no plan. Start small. Ask one question. Because every answer you chase doesn't just sharpen your mind, it builds a boldness that says, I'm not done yet. And that's the truest confidence there is. Pillar 5. Your resilience. Life after 60 doesn't slow down, it just tests you differently, swapping the chaos of younger years for quieter, sharper challenges. Health hiccups, loss, change. They come knocking, sometimes soft, sometimes loud, but always with weight. Confidence isn't pretending those don't hurt, isn't pasting on a smile while the cracks spread inside. It's knowing you can rise every time they knock you down, standing up even when your knees wobble. Others might comfort you, friends with warm words, family with tight hugs, but they can't carry your grit. That's yours alone, a fire in your chest no one else can stoke. Take Doris, a 66-year-old who faced a tough diagnosis, the kind that comes with a doctor's frown and a stack of pamphlets. At first she leaned hard on her son for support, calling him late at night, needing his voice to steady her. But he had his own family to juggle. 2 kids, a mortgage, a job that didn't pause, and though he cared, he couldn't be her anchor every day. Doris felt that gap, the silence between his visits, and realized waiting wasn't enough. So she started walking daily, just around the block at first, her sneakers scuffing the pavement as she sorted her thoughts. She began talking to herself kindly, whispering, "You've got this," instead of "Why me?" She found small wins, like planting flowers she'd always wanted, her hands in the dirt, coaxing tulips from bulbs she'd ignored for years. Over time, she didn't just cope, she thrived, her steps firmer, her garden brighter, her heart tougher than she'd known. Resilience isn't about being unbreakable, it's about bending without snapping, flexing under pressure, and still holding your shape. It's not a steel wall that shrugs off every blow, it's a willow that sways in the storm and stays rooted. Life after 60 doesn't spare you the hard stuff. Maybe it's a creaky joint that slows your stride, a friend who's gone too soon, or a routine flipped upside down. Others can sit with you, cry with you, but they can't climb out of that hole for you. Doris's son couldn't walk her miles or plant her flowers. He could only cheer from the sidelines. The rising, that was hers, and it's yours too, because the grit to keep going isn't borrowed, it's built, one stubborn choice at a time. How do you bounce back? That's the question. The quiet compass when the knocks land. Build habits that steady you. A quiet moment with your coffee, watching the steam curl while you breathe. A good laugh at a silly show that cuts through the gloom. A deep breath that fills your lungs and pushes the weight off your chest. Doris found it in her walks, her words, her garden. But yours might be a journal page, a song you hum, a prayer you whisper. It's not about grand heroics. It's the small, steady things that stitch you back together. Because when you know you can weather anything, confidence becomes your shadow, trailing you without fanfare, there in every step. Doris didn't erase her diagnosis, but she outlasted its shadow. Proving resilience isn't loud, it's persistent. You've got that in you too. Think of the times you've fallen. Maybe a job lost, a love faded, a plan wrecked, and gotten up anyway. That's your grit, your proof. Health hiccups might linger, loss might sting, change might rattle, but you bend, you sway, you rise. Build those habits, a moment, a laugh, a breath, and watch them carry you. Because confidence after 60 isn't dodging the knocks, it's knowing they can't keep you down. Life after 60 isn't a fade out, it's a chance to shine brighter with a confidence built to last. The years might shift the ground beneath you, but these 5 pillars hold firm. Your life experience proves you're tougher than you think. Your independence keeps you steady on your own terms. Your connections remind you you're never truly alone. Your curiosity lights up every day with possibility, and your resilience turns setbacks into comebacks. With these in place, uncertainty doesn't stand a chance. You'll feel strong, grounded, and ready for whatever's next. Thanks for joining me today. Leave a comment below with one thing you'll take from this. Your thoughts fuel me to keep creating. If this resonated, like, subscribe, and share. Hit the bell so you don't miss what's coming. See you in the next video.